tonight, we have a very special guest. Please we give a warm welcome to singer, DJ, and visual artist, Kero Bonito. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
So how's it going to work is I've got a few questions in here which I'm going to ask, and then we're going to throw it open after a while to questions from the audience. So get your questions ready. We'll come over, give you a mic. So yeah, perfect. Where I wanted to start was you were born in Japan. You spent a lot of your childhood there before moving to the UK during middle school. I was wondering, what do you think the differences were between living in Japan and the UK as a child, and how do you think that's shaped where you've come since then?
I mean, so it's totally different cultures, like Japan and the UK. But one funny thing that moving to the UK, I was so surprised is people were hugging each other. Suddenly, someone I just met will hug me, and I'll be like, what are you doing? Because in Japan, you don't really do that. You just kind of like bow or wave at people. So that took a while to get used to. But I think I'm really happy that I got to experience childhood in both UK and Japan, because I think I did struggle a lot with my identity, being someone from a mixed background, and both places I grew up in were countrysides. So especially in Japan, in rural Japan or countryside Japan, there was hardly no one like who had a mixed background, no one like me. So I always felt really different or out of place or like an alien. So having to move to the UK, and I still had those feelings, but maybe less because it was a bit more diverse, like especially the school I went to. I got to experience like both of my roots. So that really helped kind of like me coming, like understanding like, oh, who am I? Or I'm both, and I'm proud of it. And that's definitely kind of inspired how I make art and music.
Yeah, I mean, it's particularly come through in the fact that you're quite unique in the way you mix both English and Japanese whilst you're singing. What sort of creative opportunities do you think that brings?
So many. I mean, just even being able to write in 2 languages, it's like for me, you're able to play with double the tools in your toolbox. And I feel like language is really interesting in that sense. Like every language has its personality. So something you can say in one language, you can't really say it in the same way in a different language. So in a way, it has given me double the creative, freedom. And yeah, definitely I had a lot of creative opportunities being able to write in both languages.
Was there any ever sort of challenge or pushback you got from that?
Oh yeah, I mean, at the start, we're talking like more than 10 years ago when I started or joined the band Kero Kero Bonito, and back then it was not that common to like in the UK to hear a song that's like written other than English. So there was a lot of pushback, people warning me like, oh, if you write in 2 languages, like you're not gonna get radio plays, it's gonna be really tough, no one's gonna back you. But I think when that happened, I was like, it felt really similar to what I was struggling with my identity growing up. Like, so I was like, oh, if I can't write in English and Japanese, I'm gonna write in English and Japanese because that's who I am and I'm proud of it. So it was like kind of my way of like almost doing punk music or something to write in both languages. It was like, this is me and you're gonna take me as I am. Yeah.
So to move to the foundation of KKB, Kero Kero Bonito, I believe you responded to an online application form that Gus and Jamie sent out. I was wondering what that application process involved.
Yeah, I just kind of applied to it thinking, oh, this could be something fun to do. Not really thinking seriously, because funny story is I actually got a D in music at AS level, and I've dropped it for A level. So even back then I was like, well, I guess music's not in the cards for me. So I just kind of thought, oh, this could be fun. And then I met Gus and Jamie, never sang in front of people, but I actually don't remember much of that audition. But I guess I was good enough for them to like me, and we really got along. And I was really drawn to their musical talent as well, because before I was studying fine art at uni, and I never really had a connection with the music world. So I was really drawn to them, and then we started writing Intro Bonito that summer, our first mixtape, and the rest is history. Yeah.
I think since then, Intro Bonito, the style has changed quite significantly. That album sounds very different to Bonito Generation, sounds very different to Civilisation. I was wondering, do you think that comes from a change in your musical approach over time, or just a desire to try out different sounds?
I think we're just, us three, we're really curious in a way, like we love kind of expanding or evolving, and I think, I think we just wanted to try something new, and yeah, I guess like people after Bonito Generation, like people were maybe expecting another Bonito Generation, but I think it's really fun to like not kind of be safe or be, I don't know, like push boundaries or do something new, and I think that's when it's really exciting, and I think that really fuels our kind of like, I don't know, feeling of wanting to try something new. Yeah.
Were there any inspirations you drew on either for the tone in the earlier parts of your work or for the change later on?
I think the biggest inspiration is definitely our life. I think like, especially the earlier albums really kind of, like Bonito Generation is of that, you know, like there's a song called Graduation, and it's a song about me not going to graduation in real life, and there's a song about Big City, about me moving to London from Kenilworth in the West Midlands. So it's kind of like, it's like we make the music we want to make at that time, at that moment. Yeah.
I think in a lot of KKB songs, there's like an interesting, delicate balance between like the happy upbeat and then like a slightly darker, more melancholy undertone. How do you think you've approached that balance, like throughout the changing tone of your work?
Yeah, I think life already is a balance of light and dark. So when we kind of make music, we're ultimately drawing something from within us. So I think it naturally becomes like a mixture of light and dark, I would say. Yeah.
Along with the music, visual art has always been very much at the center of your work. How do you think about the relation between music and visual art?
I think nowadays, making music is actually not just about music. There's so many more things that comes with it. And there's like a world-building aspect behind it, like just thinking about like the music video, the album cover, what are we going to wear on stage? How are we going to present the songs that we made that people have only heard? So I think the visual aspect is like a very huge thing in music, I think, especially nowadays. Does it normally go, you start with the music and then you work the visuals out, or do you start with a visual kind of vibe and then the music comes as a product of that? I think it actually starts all together. So I think when we are starting something new, we almost kind of develop a shared language between us. Like, for example, for time and place, we'll be hanging out, and if we see something that looks like it should be in a time and place, we will be like, oh, that's so time and place. So kind of like developing the world and the language and like, you know, mood boards. So when we are actually, when we actually come to writing the music, we already kind of have like this understanding between us of how this world should sound like or look like. So I would say it's always at the same time, very like gradual, we kind of build it together.
Yeah. Well, where does the album title come in that process?
I think the album title actually comes pretty early on in our journey. Like how I was saying with like Time and Place, we already knew we wanted to name it Time and Place. I think, it's pretty early on, I think.
Yeah, it's more of the title defines the direction rather than...
Yeah, it's kind of like the word that encapsulates the world we want to explore.
Yeah. Are there any particular album covers or music videos of yours or of others that you've taken inspiration on that you look back on like particularly fondly?
Oh, like other people's?
Yours or other people's?
Well, I'll start with ours. I have a personal connection with the Bonito Generation cover. Like how I was saying earlier, I didn't go to graduation, so I don't have a graduation picture. So and then the album cover is basically me in a gown with the cat with the degree in my hands. So it was kind of like a fun thing to play with, and giving my parents that album cover and be like, look, I have a graduation picture. Yeah, I didn't go to graduation, but you have a picture now. So I had a really strong personal connection with that cover. And yeah, I guess I really loved working on the Only Acting video, and that was when we were starting to experiment with our sound as well. So we were really trying to push boundaries with how we wanted the video to look like. So I remember we were looking at loads of found footage. Well, I was really inspired by found footage horror, or that kind of lo-fi VHS kind of vibe, and I think that you can really see that in the Only Acting video. Yeah.
One of my, I think possibly my favourite Kero Kero Bonito song is Swimming.
Oh, nice, okay.
The video for that involves you swimming. I was wondering, does the idea for the music video ever predate the song, or does it always normally afterwards?
I think when we're writing the track, we can kind of visualize it as well. So we kind of knew kind of a vague idea of how we want the video to look like. And that was a really fun video to film as well. But one thing, it was filmed in February, and I had to go neck deep in the sea, so it was really cold. Was
it in the UK?
It was in the UK,
yeah,
and I remember I was in the sea, and I actually had a wetsuit. I was wearing wetsuit inside and normal clothes to kind of hide that, and then I had to pretend I was fine. So every time the camera, it was like a drone flying past me. So every time I see the drone, I have to stop shaking and pretend everything's okay. But it was, I'm really happy how it turned out, yeah.
Yeah, do you quite enjoy the music video filming process? There was another one, the video for When the Fires Come. That one's very, very detailed. There's a lot going on there. How do you enjoy that process?
Yeah, definitely. I think me being from a visual background, I really love approaching things from a visual aspect. So I love planning the videos, or thinking how it should look like, and yeah, I really love filming videos. It's one of my favorite things. Yeah.
Another project which you're involved in that involves both music and the visual side is Crylot, the project you've been doing with Jenny Walton producing. What was it that made you want to go in this kind of creative direction, a slightly darker, heavier sound?
I think Crylot started, actually, it was originally an Instagram account that I opened. I was going through a pretty dark time in my life, and it was kind of opened for me to post something, I don't know, I would say maybe it's a bit too dark for the Sarah Bonito account, so it was kind of a account to post things I was feeling. And then I started thinking, I really want to make music under this project. And my thinking behind it was I really want to externalize my pain. And it was kind of like my hope of, oh, if I like put this out, maybe I will be able to come out of this dark place. So I think that's why it sounds like more darker than my other work, and it's more, the lyrics are more like personal, I would say.
Yeah. What was it that drew you? The album's called Icarus. EP. What was it that drew you to that analogy? And I think I'm right in saying you take a slightly different take on it. You don't read caution from that. It's more of like an ambition kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the Icarus mythology, I think the most common interpretation of it is like, don't fly too close to the sun or you're gonna die. But my interpretation is like, well, if I just fly like safely in the middle, what's the point of living? Like, we should actually celebrate that he tried to reach the sun. And I think it's like what makes us special as humans, that we want to become more, or we're trying to reach, or like reach to the top. And I think I see it more of a positive way. So I always been inspired by Icarus, and I think especially when I was in that dark place, it was like, oh, remember the mythology, remember Icarus, like, you know, it felt really like, oh, I need to get out of there and reach the sun, or try to, like, so I think there was like a similarity to it, and then I wanted to base the EP on Icarus, yeah. And I think I wanted people to kind of see Icarus how I see him, yeah.
Yeah. How was the process with that album in terms of the production? Did you like take quite an active role in shaping the production, or did you sort of see what came and then respond to that with the singing?
With Crylot?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was really collaborative. I think I remember sending like a bunch of melodies and lyrics to Jennifer, and she would send me back a demo, and it kind of like going back and forth with that. Yeah, it was pretty collaborative, I would say.
Another interesting thing you've done recently is made the theme song for the upcoming video game Starlight Revolver. I was wondering how did that come about?
Yeah, they basically just contacted me to see if I was interested, and they were looking for someone who can write and sing mostly in Japanese. And then I really loved the game, like how it looked and the concept behind it, and that's how it all came about. Yeah.
Yeah. How was it trying to make a song drawing on a video game?
I really like it because it's kind of like acting, where you kind of get to be outside of like your comfort zone. You get to try and imagine, like, oh, what would this world look like, or how would this character see this world? So you almost get to write lyrics as someone else, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. You also, I think you made the song for the 2023 like this Pokemon competition.
Oh yes, yeah.
Did that come about in a similar way? Was that something?
Yes, yeah. They actually asked us, and we were down, and yeah, and yeah, I love Pokemon, so of course I would say yes.
Of course. Just to move to a slightly different place, to Civilisation, the most recent Kero Kero Bonito project. Still, I was wondering if you'd dig a bit more into what the creative vision was with that album, or both parts of it, and what story were you trying to tell?
With Civilisation, we kind of imagined this civilization that could have existed in the past, present, or future, and we explored that world, like society, history, how the humans have affected that world, and then kind of worked from there.
what made you choose to split it into the two parts?
Two parts. Oh, I don't know. It just happened. Yeah, there wasn't really like a reason behind it, but yeah, it just happened. It felt like the right thing to do for that project.
Yeah. Another thing you've gotten very involved in recently is DJing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what was it that attracted you to get more involved in the DJ scene?
I actually started DJing it was like an accident. I got asked to DJ someone's night, and they didn't know that I couldn't DJ. But then I was like, well, why not? Let's give it a go. So I taught myself how to DJ on YouTube 2 weeks before, and then I went for it, and I really enjoyed it. And I think what attracted me the most to DJing is it's a bit different from, say, like singing to a crowd on stage, because you're singing your songs. But DJing, you're kind of like playing other people's songs, but you're kind of thinking about like the order of the song, how do I mix it, how do I take the crowd on a journey. So it's like a different way of thinking about music. And I'm really into the music genre like happy hardcore, like hardstyle, like gabba, donk, like that kind of music, like dance music. So I feel like I get to be selfish when I DJ. I'll be like, look at all these amazing music that I love, and we're gonna listen to them, and we're gonna have a party. Are you in? Kind of thing. So I really enjoy it, yeah.
Are there any songs in your discography which you look back on particularly fondly?
Oh, I guess this is what people are expecting me to say, but I think personally I would say Flamingo. Because that song is about identity and kind of accepting, being proud of who you are. So it means so much to me that it is actually one of the most popular songs, or songs people know us. And I think it's because I felt like it was like, how do I say this? I think that song being popular I felt like I was accepted or seen, or like, you know, like I was talking about writing in Japanese and English. I felt like people saw me for who I am, kind of thing. So I think that song is definitely really special to me, and has it means a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's obviously from quite early on in your body of work. Would you say that there is an overarching vision of the KKB albums? Do they tell a wider story, or is there the story of your life maybe? Yeah, Kero Kero Bonito is me, Gus, and Jamie, and it's the music that we make together. So it was, and we have, it will always be that. So there is definitely like an overarching world that only us three can make together. Yeah. KKB has become, a worldwide phenomenon. People love it across the world. Was that something you were quite surprised by as it started to develop, or perhaps not?
Yeah, definitely at the start, because there was a lot of pushbacks. I think a lot of the music industry found it really hard to get behind us because we were so different, and the music we were making, I think, was different as well. So we did get a lot of pushback, but then we found basically our fans online. So I think without the internet, I wouldn't have been here. So I think that's what's good about music now, that anyone can make music and upload music online. Like, you don't need to impress someone at the top. So I think it's nice that everyone can do that if they want to. So I think, I think thanks to the internet, I'm here.
Yeah, has anything surprised you about this experience of becoming a, world-renowned singer?
Everything. Honestly, I didn't come out the room like holding a microphone, wanting to be a singer. So I just kind of like followed where life took me. I wanted to be a painter initially. So, and I never, even before joining Kero Kero Bonito, I never really been to a music festival or kind of knew nothing about the music world. So everything was unexpected. If I have to pick out one, I think, like how I was saying earlier about the world building, music nowadays is so much more than just the music, and I really enjoy that aspect of music.
Yeah. Just one final question from me before we go to the audience for a bit. Do you have any advice for students who might be looking to get involved in music or visual art themselves?
I think from my personal experience, I would say believing in yourself is actually really important if you want to do something creative, because I think this world is kind of built to not want people to do something different or carve your own path. So you will definitely face a lot of obstacles and people telling you like, don't do it, or, you know, so I think being your number one cheerleader is really important, and also like staying curious, staying open to where the world might take you. Yeah, and I think enjoying the journey and hone your craft, I would say, are my advice.
Thank you so much. I think now it's time for a few questions from the audience. I think we should be able to get a mic to you. We'll go right here at the front.
Huge fan. You are definitely going to end up probably number 2 on my Spotify rap this year. And I was just sort of wondering, growing up, who were you listening to? Who influenced your music? And who inspires you now? And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but around a few months ago, I was in the record shop and I managed to get Civilisation.
Oh, wow.
And I was just wondering if you could sign it for me.
Yeah, of course I will. Yeah. Sure.
We're doing it right now.
I'll do it right now.
I have to take the opportunity. I promise I'm not going to sell it. It's going to stay in my collection.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Okay, what was the question again? My favorite artist growing up?
Who influenced your music, and right now, who inspires you in music?
Oh, okay. Growing up, the albums I listened to the most, like as a teenager, probably be like Linkin Park, Meteora, a classic. A bit of a dark one, but I was into it. Was Downward Spiral by 9 Inch Nails, and I was going through my emo phase, so I was really into My Chemical Romance as well. What was the second question?
Who influenced your music and who inspires you now?
I think I actually draw a lot of influence from movies a lot, or like visual artists. Like I was saying, for Time and Place, I was really inspired by, we were really inspired by like found footage films, like the Blair Witch, or that kind of like lo-fi movies. It's really hard to pick one, but I would say like every era has its own inspiration. My favorite visual artist, probably Francis Bacon, the painter. It's my favorite. I don't know why they're all dark, but yeah.
Let's go right here at the front.
I've also got a Bonito Generation. Can I ask you to sign it after
Yeah, of course.
as well?
Yeah.
Thank you. So my question was, I mean, the KKB discography is so varied, and also your Crylot projects. I mean, on the one hand, you've got the mythology side and like Civilisation, where you create a world, and then you mentioned a bit about how other songs are just inspired by your life, and like waking up or just hearing a song and not knowing. And I just wanted to ask, do you have a different approach to songwriting from like both perspectives, like the mythology side and the like mundane side? And also, like, how do you write about something so mundane but turn it into so magical? Like, where does that inspiration come from?
I think my approach to music writing has changed over time. Like, early on, I think I was more like on fight mode, like kind of like writing in Japanese and English, and like it revolved about like my identity struggles back in the day. But I think like now, especially like Flamingo becoming so popular, now I'm kind of like, well, what am I beyond that? Like, I don't want my art to just be about identity. Like, who am I beyond this? So, yeah, I think that in that way, my approach has changed. But I think mundane is actually magical. So I don't think it's already, I don't know, magical to me. So I think, that's how we see the world. Yeah.
Can you say my mind?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks.
You're literally amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Another question. Should we go right there?
Hi, you mentioned just now that you're surprised by the fan reacting of Flamingo and all your songs, and I also noticed you and the other band members reposting a lot of fan arts and things on Instagram. Do you think fans to some extent has influenced how you write your songs or how you perform them?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think actually, like, the fans have given us confidence that we can make the music we want to make, especially like when we released Only Acting. That was the first time we were like showing the world like, oh, we're gonna go this way, we're gonna go somewhere else. And I remember, like, you know, the night before the music video was uploaded, I was kind of like nervous but excited, like, oh, are they gonna really like what we're doing? And then I remember getting a really positive feedback from the fans. So I think like it has actually given us like freedom or like confidence to kind of make the music we want to make. And yeah, honestly, we won't be here if it wasn't for the fans. So yeah, they mean everything to us.
Should we go here on the second one as well?
Hiya. So earlier you mentioned that Flamingo is kind of like a massive, massive hit, and I was just wondering, do you ever feel like it's kind of overshadowed your work and like people come to Kero Kero Bonito and your DJ experience kind of expecting to just hear Flamingo 2.0, and how do you kind of deal with that in terms of your outlook?
Yeah, of course, I know that for the rest of my life I'll probably be singing Flamingo, and I'm totally fine with that. I mean, I love that song, and I'm happy that people maybe like find out about us through that song. So yeah, I'm totally fine with that. Yeah.
Should we go here?
Hey, Sarah. I was going to ask, I think it's kind of, you can hear that in a lot of the Kero Kero Bonito production, it seems to be very influenced by like video games. And I think you may have spoken this a bit before in other interviews, but when starting those albums, Kero Kero Bonito, do you go in with kind of video games like off the bat as an inspiration, or do you go in thinking we want to curate a sound to this particular song influenced by video games, or did that just come about from a shared love of video games and it just sort of naturally worked in? Also, very quickly, in your interview you did with Anthony Fantano, you said you hadn't bought a games console since the PS2. Has that changed?
Yes, it has. I own a Switch now, and an Xbox actually.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I haven't really used the Xbox. It's kind of more Switch or PC. But yes, yeah, times have changed. Yeah, I think all three of us, so we grew up playing video games, so it's naturally like. I think one of the reasons I love like hardcore or hardstyle dance is maybe because I was into DDR, or maybe because I played rhythm games. I think there is like definitely a connection there. But I think it just happens naturally when we make music, because we did grow up playing games.
Should we go there in the second row?
Hi there. So I was wondering, so I think one thing I really like about a lot of your music is it's always really cohesive within each album. Like you try so much different stuff, across musically, lyrical themes, but each album feels really coherent and sort of following itself. And I guess I was wondering, how does that come about? Is it just something that naturally happens, or is it more something you really fight for and a struggle for? Is there a process? Yeah, how does that happen for you?
I think it's always going to sound like it's from us because it is the music, like, it's like having 3 chefs in the kitchen kind of thing. So it was going to have that Kero Kero Bonito signature style because it is from us 3. Yeah, I think just like I was saying, like kind of developing the language or the world. How will this music look like? And we kind of approach it more kind of, from like building the world. And that's how we, approach a new project.
You can go back here.
So
You should get a mic.
So obviously, in your music, I sort of assume you stay connected to your Japanese side through, singing and writing in Japanese. Sort of how else, since living here, have you stayed connected to that Japanese side?
I think I felt really disconnected to Japan for a while until in January, I actually went back to my hometown in Otaru in Hokkaido, which is like the countryside of like top of Japan. And when I went there, I realized that I haven't been back for more than 10 years. So it was quite emotional, an emotional trip for me, seeing like the house I used to live was torn down and there's a new family living there, or my primary school was shut down, and it was a very time and place moment for me. So I think, what was the question? How I stay connected to Japan? I think I want to go back to Japan more. I think that really made me feel like, because it was weird, because when I moved to the UK, I think I felt more Japanese in a way, and now that's kind of shifted. So I definitely want to spend more time in Japan.
Should we go? You can go back there on the second row.
So you talk a lot about being inspired by like video games and films, and you've also done some really interesting collaborations. And I was just wondering if there are any kind of pieces of media you'd love to soundtrack or artists you'd like to collaborate with in the future.
Oh, I mean, game-wise, like my 2 favorite games is. Well, right now, I always love Zelda. So if I can do anything with Zelda, like. Shout out Nintendo, like if you can like let me like write for Zelda, that'll be like a dream come true. Other games. Probably Zelda would be like a dream come true. Or if I don't know if this is true, but I heard they're making a film, like a real live action Zelda film. I don't know if that's just like a rumor. But if that's the case, I would love to do the soundtrack. Or I would love to voice Zelda. But yeah, I'm just putting it out there.
We're here on the front.
I guess speaking of Zelda, you talked about how like being online is such a key part of the identity of your music and all of that. I did sort of want to ask you, like, how do you manage to actually like keep this up in such an effective way? Because the internet has been like a very vital medium for getting KKB sort of out there, whether it was the news about you and your sister band Death Grips, or the Twitch streams you were doing, even like able to balance that sort of public perception of you and your music in a very delicate way. How do you achieve that, I guess, without like sacrificing yourself, or selling out in a way?
I think anytime I'm doing something, I'm always asking myself, like, am I having fun? Does this feel right? So I think I always navigate anything I do, like, kind of with a feeling. So I think, like, I think, and the internet is a beast in itself. So just having fun, making anything, a creative anything is, I think, what I try to do.
Should we go here on the front row again?
There was one song of yours that I discovered like last year, and its fans are cool, and it's like so buried in your discography, and I was like so shocked when I was like, oh my gosh, new KKB that I haven't heard. But I just wanted to ask the process of that, and obviously you mentioned before how fans are like so central to your work and to your success. So like how did that come about? It's such a cute little song, and yeah.
Yeah, I think, I can't remember, we asked people to submit names, and then I think the whole song was of me like saying everyone's name and saying fans are cool. We were just speaking the truth. But yeah, I think fans are so important to us, and we thought that was a cool song to make.
Just go here on the second row again.
Hi, on the gaming front in particular, you mentioned that rhythm games was one of your main sources of inspiration. Did you have much exposure to that in either Japan or in the UK? And what would be your songs that you would most like to recommend to anyone here?
I really like a song, I really like Happy Synthesizer. I can't remember who it was from, but like when I went back to Japan in August, I was really obsessed playing that song in the arcade. And then I grew up playing DDR. I used to be really good. Now Jennifer takes the crown. I think because I grew up with it, I naturally like. I love it. Yeah.
I'm going to go here again.
I was just wondering, what's next? What is there to expect? Are you working on anything? Because obviously you released Civilisation in 2021 and The Situation earlier this year. So is there anything in the works?
Things are moving. Watch this space is I'll say for now.
Great. Do we have any more questions? Oh, okay. We can go on the left there.
Hi, thank you so much for coming. I guess my question is kind of based off you having lyrics both in English and Japanese. And I guess I'm wondering, do you find that people who speak both languages kind of have a different connection to the music? And have you found that there's stuff that can't really be translated between the languages that you find that you can express because you're using that combination?
Yeah, I think using two languages, I get to connect with a wider range of people. And yeah, I think people do if you can only understand one language and there's two languages in the song, yeah, people will have like a different interpretation of it. A good example. Like, for example, like in Japanese, the word I, you can say it in many ways. I always found that really interesting. And then like in English, there's like the rhymes, like that's not the same in Japanese. So yeah, there's so many ways of kind of exploring within those two languages.
Thank you so much. I think that's all the questions we've got time for today. I've got one quick announcement in a second, but first let's all give a very warm thank you to Sarah. Only thing I have to say, next week, Wednesday the 27th of November, at 7 p.m, we have Dame Jocelyn Bell-Burnell accepting our Hawking fellowship in the chamber. So please do come along to that if you're interested. And thank you so much. And thank you.
Thank you.